Continuing, she was a Holocaust victim. My mother, however, escaped to Brazil. I was made aware of this chapter while I was delivering a speech at São Paulo's Institute of Cinema. And somebody in the audience raised their hands and said, "Are you aware that this book talks about your family in such and such a way?" Knowingly that they knew that I was of Jewish descent. I rushed to the nearest bookstore and I opened the book and I was absolutely astonished. I knew Rui Castro, the author, and I was flabbergasted. I made a couple of calls and I reached him and he blamed it on somebody else. Somebody else told him. Anyway, I wrote an article that same day. I contacted Rio's newspaper, O Globo. I wrote an article which was then printed the next day on the second page, huge, full page. In case you don't know who I am, just go to your own pages. The New York Times. I was featured in grand style in the 80s, and then in early 2000s, the Kafka trilogy, Brazil, It's Lonely in the Avant-Garde, full page in the Arts and Leisure. Earlier, in the early 80s, with the Becketts, with Julian Beck, and at La Mama, the Becketts, and with Fernanda Montenegro at Lincoln Center in 1992. A Monster Mom Comes to New York, and of course with Mooning the Audience in Rio with Philip Glass's opera in 1989, and then Mooning the Audience in 2003 with the Tristan in Isolde. So I'm widely published in the New York Times. So I don't envy Louis Schwarzc at all. I just want to make it clear that this man violated every single principle of what a publisher, a responsible publisher, should be. And he met me. I met him in São Paulo when he returned from the Frankfurt Book Fair. What he alleged was, "Oh, it escaped me. I'm so sorry, it escaped me. I will retrieve the books that are now being sold." And he did, but by then he had sold 15,000 copies. Well, let me explain what ensued. My mother died as a result of that. Let me repeat that. My mother died as a result of what she then read, because, these horrible things run, word of mouth runs like a pest. Her friends soon discovered what happened, and they called each other up like the worst of gossips. She fell, broke her femur, and you know what happens to an 86-year-old lady. She died a few years after very many illnesses and mental illness. Again, they reprinted my chapter, excluding those initial infamous, disgraceful lines. It doesn't excuse Louis Schwarzc as a publisher, the one you hail, or the author of this article. Sadie Stein didn't do her research very well, because my case is widely known in Brazil. Like I said, it was published by Veja magazine, the Time magazine of Brazil, Isto É, the second magazine in Brazil, the Newsweek. It got huge coverage in O Globo. Like I said, I can email it to you if I know who to talk to. So I wonder, this is the New York Times is known. I worked for the New York Times as an illustrator of the op-ed page for 6 years in the early '80s. So I mean, I know that there is a Jewish bias, shall I say? I mean, I don't know if you're protective of the defects of Jews, and or you wish to publish the virtues without highlighting. But this is a case of also. I mean, this guy Louis Schwarzc is obviously a fantastic publisher, but it has to be pointed out that there are flaws in the system. That this guy did huge damage, directly and indirectly. I mean, he didn't actually write this calamitous chapter. I wish I could be excluded from this book altogether. This guy, Rui Castro, is a piece of shit. Doesn't do anything, in my opinion. I mean, I wish I could have been excluded from the beginning. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm hugely famous in Brazil. I'm the best known theater director, and playwright that there has been in Brazil. Read Alan Writing's article on me. Read the guy after Alan Writing, I forget his name, but read everything that's been written about me in the New York Times. So you know who I am. I don't need Rui Castro to portray me. There's been 15,000 articles written on me in Brazil alone. So anyway, this is my reply. It has taken me, today is April the 21st. I read this article on Schwarzc when it came out on February the 14th, and it has taken me all this time to address this situation because it makes me sick. It makes my blood boil. As you can see, it still does. But I'm going to make a YouTube of this because this is now 7 minutes long, and I don't know how to send this to you. But I will make it. I'll make it go to 8th Avenue, opposite Port Authority somehow. Or maybe I'll bring it to you. I don't know. I live in New Paltz. I used to live in Manhattan. Anyway, I deeply regret having to do this. Honestly, it's no fun. It's no fun. But I wish that Louis Schwarzc had come clean at that time, back in 1999. I wish that he had been the man he says he is, to issue a note, which he didn't, to issue a note instead of meeting me at a restaurant near the publishing company there. And with his depressive self, oh, yeah. I was at the Frankfurt Fair. It escaped me. I mean, really? There is no second in command to take over when the boss is in Frankfurt having fun? Give me a break, man. This is a huge flaw in the system that calls itself the biggest publishing company that Salman Rushdie and Andrew Solomon and whoever calls. Thank you for listening, if you have, till the end.